at this woman. Most of you, when you go to buy from this woman, you begin to bargain. How much are your mangoes? 5,000, 2,000. Madam, give it for 1,000. Madam, give it for 500. But when you go to ShopRite, you don't do any bargaining. You carry all the fruits and vegetables that are produced in Nigeria, you go to ShopRite, wash and package well. So packaging and post-harvest handles in Southeast Nigeria. They never make vegetable soup with one vegetable. If they want to make bitter leaf, you will see some pieces of ugu, you will see some pieces of scent leaf, you will see some pieces of everything. But when you go to the northern part of the country, if my wife wants to make kuka for me, it's just kuka and kuka and kuka alone. And the same thing when she wants to make okra, just okra alone. But then go to the southeast, if you want okra, apart from the okra, they will put some pieces of ugu, they will put some pieces of amaranthus, they will put some pieces of bitter leaf, and they will also go ahead to put snail, stockfish, dried fish, fresh fish, goat meat, everything in one soup. 3 million hectares of land, 79.8 is arable cultivable, 33.4 is under actual cultivation, the remaining 43.4 million hectares is lying fallow, wasted. And of course, we have what we call the Fadama. We have about 3.1 million hectares of Fadama, which can actually soak and absorb water during the rainy season, and it can be used for dry season. As I'm talking to you, we are just utilizing about 400,000 hectares, not even up to 1 million hectares. And of course, with a population of 220 million people, we have to move fast to make sure that we feed everybody. Then, of course, 528 ethnic groupings. But of the 220 million people, 87% are involved directly or indirectly in agriculture. Next slide quickly, please. Yeah, this is the agroecology. I just want to mention one thing about this. Savannah, we have the Sahel, Sudan, Guinea derive. We have the rainforest and mangrove. Then we have specialized areas, Mambila, Jos, and Abudu. So this diversity, 3 months in rainfall in northern part of Maiduguri, and 11 months of rainfall in Bayelsa. There is a particular island that is called Focados Island. It's a river state. It has 12 months of rainfall per annum, while in the most northern part of the country where I came from, we have less than 3 months. So you either do all your agricultural activities within the 3 months, or else you are out of business. And in most cases, for the 3 months, we have to go out with your children and then pray to God Almighty to bring the rain before the rains will come and will contribute our substantial quota to agricultural development. But that diversity is our greatest advantage. That diversity means that anything that can be grown in the world can actually be grown in Nigeria. Anything you can think of that can be grown outside Nigeria can actually be grown in Nigeria. Next. Now, everybody is talking about food security, food security. Let's get the basics. What exactly is food security? If I should define now, more than 80% of the people in this room are not secured food-wise. Honestly, and I have my reasons. Let's begin to go. First, the food must be available. If it is available in the market, excellent. But then it must also be affordable. You must have the cash, the wherewithal, to go and buy the food. And then number 3, it must be balanced. 4 classes of food makes you a balanced person, or makes a diet person. Meat and meat products, fruits and vegetables, grains and bread and grains, and finally milk and milk products. And that is where the challenge is. milk and milk products. How many people have taken milk today? Please, if you have taken milk this morning, kindly raise up your hand if you have taken milk. So I can just see 3, 4 hands. So that means out of about 500 of us, only 4 people are actually taking a balanced diet. With due apologies to Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmad. Amma ban san raka baka sha madara ka fito ba? Ko sai ka koma za ka sha. Next slide, please. Next slide. So let's look at the present status before we move to know the challenges and also to proper solutions. The present status as of today in the agricultural subsector is that the whole industry is rudimentary. The hoe that my grandfather used is the same hoe that my father used, and is the same hoe that I'm also using today. When you go to southern Nigeria, the cutlass that your grandfather used, your father used, is the same cutlass matched things. No technology at all. And the piece of land is usually in small hectareages. A man with 4 wives and 38 children with a small farm, he goes down, and all of a sudden the farms are fragmented, and of course, there is a kind of hectareages, small hectareages all over. Then of course, no modern technology. We like modern technology in the agricultural subsector. No fertilizer is a mirage in most cases, but this year actually the Federal Ministry of Agriculture did excellently well for the first time in the history of Nigeria by distributing fertilizers to all the farmers across the nation. I commend the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. And then if there is low input, automatically always there will be low output. You don't have certified seeds. You don't have hybrid varieties. The seed from your farm is the same seed you're using again. It doesn't make sense. Agriculturally, once you plant a seed, it has automatically become food. So when you go for harvest, you look for a maize that has big stalks, or you look for a millet that is very strong, or you look for some rice strains that give some very good heads, and you say, okay, I will take them and use them as seed for the next rainy season. You are not planting seed. You are still planting food because it has been planted already. So every year you have to look for hybrid varieties. I'm happy Engineer Alkali is here sitting down, and the mandate secretary knows all what I'm talking. The state governments must make sure that every year the farmers get all their inputs, fertilizer, seeds, and all other chemicals before the rain falls. Distribution of fertilizer in August and September does not make sense, because then even the plants do not need them, because they are about going to harvest. And we have very harsh environmental boundaries. The desertification in the north is sweeping into the country, and of course, flooding here and there, cutting of trees, deforestation, so many other vagaries. I want to recognize my president, the president of all Farmers Association, Architect Kabir. My deep apologies, sir. Please, can you stand up for recognition? I did not see you first, but then he's over there. So, and then most of the farmers in Nigeria have very little knowledge. Very little knowledge. And of course, most of them do not have access to credit. Now, we are looking at agriculture as a business, like any other business venture, whereby you go to the bank, take a loan, come and do the business, get profit, and repay back your loan. That's how agriculture should be. But then 90% of Nigerian farmers do not have access to credit. They cannot go to the bank to access any loans. And that's a big challenge. Agriculture is becoming more and more expensive by the day. Then, of course, inadequate and ineffective extension system, where I will talk on it further, and then insecurity. Next slide, please, quickly. Okay, please, can I have your attention? Let's go through this, all of us. Kindly, let's go through this. We want to compare Nigeria with other countries. And I want to start with rice. The yield of rice in Nigeria is 1.5 tons per hectare. In Thailand, same hectare, it gives 30 tons. In Nigeria, the cocoa gives 150 kilograms per hectare. 150 kilograms. I can hold it in my hands. But then, when you go to places like Ivory Coast, Malaysia, Ghana, and Brazil, they give about 2 tons. That's 2,000 kilograms. And we are just given 150. Let's move. Maize, our average yield is just about 1.2, but we are reaching about 2 tons per hectare. But then the world average is 12 tons per hectare. And a hectare everywhere is the same hectare everywhere. So, groundnut, we give 400 kg per hectare. In Turkey, Spain, and Egypt, they give 2,700 kilograms per hectare. And for tomatoes, we just give 5 tons per hectare. In Jamaica, under greenhouse technology, they give up to 100 tons per hectare. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you very much. For potatoes, Irish potatoes, we give 6 tons per hectare with all the land in the plateau and all the land under the Zozo Emirate that do plenty of potatoes. All we are getting is 6 tons per hectare. But then other countries are getting 60 to 80 tons per hectare, most especially in the United States and then in the Irish unit. Then onions, we give 15 tons per hectare. Yemen, even under the war, gives 120 tons per hectare. In Africa, Niger Republic, our neighbor across, gives 45 tons per hectare. Senegal gives 38 tons per hectare. Egypt gives 25 tons per hectare. Don't forget, Nigeria is giving 15 tons per hectare. When you come to fishing, we are still doing peasant fishing. In other places, it's a modernized kind of trawler that will go into the ocean, spend the night, and then come early in the morning with all the varieties of fishes uncountable. We really need to move fast. And then milk, which I said is the major challenge in all our diets. All the Fulani cows that are moving up and down everywhere, they give about 150 liters per lactation. That means, please, can I have this bottle? Sorry, please, quickly. The typical Fulani cow, Your Royal Highness, with due apologies, the typical Fulani cow gives 1 liter of milk of this per day. But then the Frisian and the Cemental, they give 20 to 40 liters of milk per day. And there are so many farms in Nigeria today that have this kind of animals. Sabore Farms of Admiral Inyako, he has the Frisian. It gives 20 liters in the morning. They go for grazing, they come back, he also milks another 20 liters, giving him 40 liters. But the Fulani cows that are moving all over the country give just 1 liter of milk per day. We have to note this. And we want to commend His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for creating a special Ministry of Livestock Development. I'm sure this is going to tackle all these things I'm talking about. Then, of course, even in carcass, the meat is not good enough. And then I'm interested in the calving. A typical cow is supposed to give birth every year. Is it not true? You are an animal scientist. A typical cow is supposed to give birth every year. But Nigerian cows, they give birth once in 3 years. So what's the matter? That 3 years, a woman can give birth to 3 children in Nigeria. Yes. I just met a woman at the bank with 2 beautiful sons and kids. Both of them dressed very well in the same attire, shoes, everything. I love children. I said, madam, you have a beautiful set of twins. She said, my brother, they are not twins. So Emeka was born January 2001. And then Obuka was born December 2001. So she has given birth twice in 1 year. Now they've even gone further that they are giving 3. We hear of quadruplets, 60plets, etc. And while our cows are still giving birth once every year. Next slide, please. That's the typical Frisian cow. We must have seen so many of them. So if the Ministry of Livestock Development wants to do something great, is to get these types of cow, and then we do artificial insemination with our local ones. We will have some hybrid that will give better milk, and of course maybe they'll be able to give birth every 2 years instead of every 3 years. Next. All right, let's look at the regions quickly to know what exactly is happening. Food security, which way forward? Let's look at each region one by one and do a comparative analysis. The Northeast region, where I came from, have the highest illiteracy rate. It has the highest maternal mortality. It has the highest child mortality. It has the highest lack of industries. It has the highest lack of good road networks. It has the lowest school enrollment. It has the lowest per capita income. It has the lowest processing plant. Desertification is affecting from north, and this year the Alau Dam broke, we had flooding, and still we have some insurgency here and there, and our major comparative advantage is the only state, Borno, that shares border with 3 countries, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon, and the presence of the Lake Chad. Next slide. Southwest region, they have the highest per capita income in Nigeria. No shaking about that. They have the highest per capita income. They are good in roots and tubers. They are also good in fruits and vegetables. They have plenty of plantation crops, cocoa, cola nuts, etc. And of course, high level of industrialization. You find plenty of industries there that are performing things. But their major problem is the age of the farmers. In the Southwest, the average age of a farmer is 59 years old. All their children has left. When you go to Yoruba villages, you find out that it's only the old women, some young ladies, and the aged that are left. All the other youths, some of them are doing kabu-kabu in Abuja, some of them are selling fuel somewhere, some of them are political talks, etc. These are the kind of people that we need to reintegrate into the agricultural system so that we can get better productivity. We did a peer review recently under the auspices of the Nigerian Governors Forum. And then I was tackling agriculture. I was looking at the type of foods that people eat. And then I was able to know who are the best feeders in Nigeria and who are the worst feeders. I will talk about the best feeders, but pardon me, I don't want to talk about the worst feeders. The best feeders are the Igbos in southeast Nigeria. They never make vegetable soup with one vegetable. If they want to make bitter leaf, you will see some pieces of ugu, you will see some pieces of scent leaf, you will see some pieces of everything. But when you go to the northern part of the country, if my wife wants to make kuka for me, it's just kuka and kuka and kuka alone. And the same thing when she wants to make okra, just okra alone. But then go to the southeast, if you want okra, apart from the okra, they will put some pieces of ugu, they will put some pieces of amaranthus, they will put some pieces of bitter leaf, and they will also go ahead to put snail, stockfish, dried fish, fresh fish, goat meat, everything in one soup. So that makes them the best feeders. When you see a typical Igbo woman with her daughter, you might think she's working with her sister. Next slide, please. Next slide quickly. The South region, we just came back from Calabar, where we went for the 46th National Council of Agriculture. It was well attended by all the 36 state commissioners of agriculture, and we did excellent deliberations. Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, all the issues you raised, it's as if you are just at that council in Calabar. Because all the issues you raised, we took them one by one. We formed thematic areas. We looked at the challenges. We did a kind of SWOT analysis for all the items you listed. And at the end of the day, we came to a conclusion and we submitted to the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. And I'm sure 2025 is going to be a very great year for the agricultural sector. And indeed, for the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. So in the south side, they have plenty of roots and tubers, massive water for aquaculture. They can grow rice, fruits, and vegetables. But then they have the challenge of militancy, limitation of farms, especially in Bayelsa, where the land is more of water than land. And of course, the aging population of the farmers in the south also. Most men do not go to farms. It's women that do all the farm work, which is not good enough. And then news recently at the 46th Agricultural Council, we were able to access Cross River, and today Cross River is the 16th wheat producing state in Nigeria. I repeat, Cross Rivers is the 16th wheat, Alkama, wheat producing state in Nigeria. We saw the plantations, and then the Minister of Agriculture did some flag up of everything, but they are harvesting their wheat excellently, while our land somewhere that is always given wheat is lying low, fallow, wasted. Next slide, please. Quickly, we have to rush through. The North Central Zone, where His Royal Highness the Emir of Zazzau comes from, they have excellent climatic conditions. And that's why the Emir is always looking very good. And they have grains and plenty of cereals, especially at the Zaria axis, Funtua, Molumfashi, and they have some roots and tubers also. They've started growing yam, especially in southern Kaduna, Saminaka area, and of course plenty of fruits and vegetables. They are also into aquaculture, but then their youths are very restless. We want those youths, Your Royal Highness, to be motivated, intimidated, lobbied, and dumped into the agricultural sector. That is my only prayer, Your Royal Highness. All the youths in Zaria, Zozo Emirate that are not doing anything, can we have a special policy? Ask Governor Ubasani, we can give him the support from the Nigerian Governors Forum. Let there be a special policy for inclusion of youths and women into the agricultural subsector. And I swear to God Almighty, by the next rainy season, the yield of what you're producing in Zozo Emirate will grow by 300%. I assure you, Your Royal Highness. I am giving my assurance. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so food security, we've seen everything. How did it begin? It's not something that just happened overnight. No. There were several factors that made the food insecurity to come a thing. And the first thing was COVID-19. During the COVID-19, there was a global lockdown. Farmers could not access their farms. So there was a kind of gap in food production, which was the fundamental of the insecurity in food that we are having. Then, of course, the Naira swap just before the elections, and it was during the rainy season. Your money is in the bank, but you cannot be able to access it, and the rents are falling. You need to buy seeds. You need to hire laborers. You need to get tractors, etc., but you just cannot afford your money. That also contributed greatly to food insecurity in Nigeria. And thirdly, removal of the petroleum subsidy. This is the worst. Let truth be told. With the increase in fuel, every other thing increased. Taking your farm inputs to your farm doubled. Bringing your farm inputs back home doubled. Getting tractor with the diesel and fuel to go and do your plowing and harrowing became something else. Because farmers could not just afford all this because of the cost of fuel. And the next, there are these inconsistent governmental policies. A Minister of Agriculture will come, there will be a good policy, like the green alternative of Chief Abdo Obe. Chief Abdo Obe left, and the green alternative went with him. Then Nanono came. He also came with his own plan, and then he left. The plan also left with him. Same administration. Then all of a sudden, Dr. Mahmoud came as minister. He had a very good NAPTIP plan. He left. But fortunate for all of us, the present Minister of Agriculture said, no new policy. We are going to continue with this policy, and this is going to be our policy direction. I think this is one of the best things that happened to the agricultural sector. but there are some others. But for the minister to be humble enough to say, I don't need another document, let's work on this present document, I think shows political will and great sense of leadership. The farmers are always fighting with the herders. The herders are always fighting with the pastoralists. The Fulanis are always encroaching into farms. And the farmers are always preventing the cattle from moving from one place to another. But then, Professor Yakuta, you remember that our conference by Kano State Government, we worked tirelessly to make sure that we gain the matrix of the problem, and then the federal government has accepted the proposal. We said there should be a special ministry for livestock, and I think the federal government has done it. Thank you very much. We want to thank you. And our team lead, Professor Atairu Jega, we all did an excellent job, so we want to wait and see how the ministry is going to work. But please, Professor Yakuta, don't move far away. With that Fulani man in that livestock ministry, that Fulani man in that livestock ministry, he needs all our support. The support of Nupe people and the full support of Kanuri people like me. Next, we have the aging population of farmers. As I said, most of our farmers are getting old. Please, next slide quickly. I want to rush through rural-urban migration, the population issue. Like I talked, women giving birth twice a year, in some cases 3 times in 1 year, or 3 kids in a year at a time, or 4 in a year at a time, or 6 in a year at a time. Please, can we clap for all our women in Nigeria? God bless you. Continue giving us more and more children so that we'll go back to agriculture to make sure that we feed them all. And of course, poor access to credit, as I said, poor infrastructure, lack of agro-processing plant, high post-harvest loss. The tomatoes produced at the Kura Churomawa axis in Kano cannot be moved to Ibadan or Port Harcourt where it is needed within the shortest possible time. We did a survey for a truck to leave Maiduguri with fresh vegetables to Lagos. There are about 57 different checkpoints from Maiduguri to Lagos. At every checkpoint, you have to stop and drop something. And of course, the same thing when you're carrying livestock. You see so many cows die because of exhaustion, because of lack of water, and because of lack of food, because they cannot endure the whole journey, because of the checkpoints. Every state to state border, there is a checkpoint. Every local government to local government, within the same state, there is a checkpoint. And of course, you find plenty of checkpoints by just some youths or none. They'll just put big rocks and big sticks. When you come, they'll say, bring something or you will not pass. When you begin to argue with them, they will all disappear. And that means for you to come out and carry all the rocks and everything. So you have to give something. And I think the government must look into this. I'm happy my father is there, Baba. You know about the livestock issue. You are the president. And you know the major challenge is the transportation. Is there something we can do to make the transportation of livestock easier? Because I learned that Lagos alone, they slaughter 10,000 cows every day. Lagos State alone consume 10,000 cows every day. The meat, the orishirishi, the roundabout, the pomo, and every other thing you know in the cow is consumed. The only thing that is not consumed are the horns. Really. But every other thing, the skin that is supposed to make shoes for us and bring foreign income is being eaten as pomo. So now if you say no eating of pomo is going to be another problem. Let us continue to eat pomo, but make sure that the livestock are better fed and better handled. Next, please. Next. Okay, thank you. Low technological development, low extension service delivery. This is where Dr. Mohamed Blama will come in, and I want to emphasize this, especially with also the Elijah Abdelhamid Dembos. I will talk about it in a short while. Then hoarding. Let us be truthful. There are some people everywhere, their major job is to buy in excess during harvest and go and hold it, or go and hide it, or go and lock it up in a particular place so that when the prices go up, they now bring them and sell. Holding is a major problem. If you are to break up all the shops and all the warehouses and all the silos, you will be surprised that there is more than enough food to feed this country. With all the things we are talking, there is enough food for every Nigerian. I'm telling you. But then holding has to stop. How to stop it? The government should act on it. And then next, we have the issue of land tenure system. The land tenure system means you cannot get farms the way you want. We want the land tenure system which is archaic and is not in tandem with modern times to be reviewed by the National Assembly. Then next we have the climate change, which everybody knows, and then lack of post-harvest. Next slide, please. So these are the diagrams that are all in the paper I've already given. I'm looking at the food. Look at today the way it is rising. So actually, even though we are talking about food insecurity, but then the food is actually growing. So even though we are talking about low food, you can see over 10 years, the food is actually growing. So the farmers are doing better, and it shows that we can actually reach higher than the peak so that there wouldn't be any talk of food insecurity. Next slide, please. These are the countries, and I was talking about the regions. Quickly, next slide. Next slide, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Nigeria has remained a major, go back a bit. Nigeria has remained a net importer of agricultural goods. Look at the years, and then look at the numbers. For 10 years, Nigeria has been importing so much. And look at the prices in USD, billion of dollars. In 2003, you can see what we imported. So please, next slide, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Let's go, keep moving, let's go, 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 go. Stop here. Food inflation. Today, the food inflation is 33.4%, which is the highest ever since independence. 33.4% is the food inflation index today. And you can see the prices of everything has gone up. Red oil, even sugar cane, banana, carrot, maize, you can see it. I got this from the Guardian of the 17th, just 2 days ago, and in my reference, as you taught us, we've actually quoted Guardian newspapers. Next slide, please. So the global food insecurity increased by 12.6 within the very first week of the Russia-Ukraine war. The two countries, Russia and Ukraine, feed nearly half the global population with grains, particularly wheat. So we now know where the problem is. Unless and until all of us make Russia and Ukraine to come back to peace, there will be inadequacy of wheat all over the world. This is a fact. And the same Russia is the major producer of wheat, soybean, seed fertilizers, and agricultural machinery. Now you cannot get all these things because they are, whoa. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about the media. The role of the media in achieving food security. All of you media guys here, you know this quote. The mass media are intermediate and mediating in several sentences. They often lie between youth as receivers and that part of potential experience which is outside our direct perception of contract. They stand between ourselves and other institutions with which we have dealings. They provide links between these different institutions. And that's a definition of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, uplifting the nation, uniting the people. Every staff in FRCN is an extension agent. And every staff in NTA is an extension agent. So you have to make Abba Gambo, make the agricultural decks at NTA more robust. I know the last time I visited you in your office and you gave me excellent food. I enjoyed that food very well. Anyway, well-balanced food. So please, make sure the agricultural decks becomes very... Train Musa Aliu, Musa Baba Ahmad. Get some more into the subsector so that there will be reporters on agriculture alone from all the zones giving agricultural feedbacks every day. And same with Dr. Mohamed Bulama. You are the Chief Extension Officer of Nigeria. You must make sure that extension is given the rightful place. Agricultural dissemination is given the rightful place in your news. Let there be more of agricultural reports. Let there be more of livestock reports, positive reports, talking about remarkable things in the agricultural subsector. That is what we want to hear and see from the FRCN and the NTA. Next slide, quickly. Next slide, still talking. This is the most important slide to me. Okay, DG, I have your attention. This is the most important slide. After this, I can actually close. Let's look at extension service delivery. Your Royal Highness, you remember when you're growing young in your native area, Malam Angona were among the most respected people in the domain. And the headmaster and the imam, then the hakimi or the megari or the emir. That is what you saw. But today, Your Royal Highness, where are the Malamangona in Zazzau Emirate? The extension agent has collapsed. Professor Kuta, where are the extension agents? They are nowhere to be found. Then look at the statistics. It says that the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations says there should be one extension officer to 50 farmers. 1 to 50. And then the world average is one extension officer to 500 farmers. And the African average is one extension officer to 5,000 farmers. The Nigerian scenario is one extension officer to 500,000 farmers. How can that be possible? For one man to be servicing 500,000 people, is that possible? So what we want is mop up all the youths, all the fresh graduates, train them as extension agents, bring them to FRCN, let them get some training in reportage, take them to NTA, let them have some training in reportage, and send all of them to the field to be extension agents, and definitely there will be a good rise, paradigm shift in the agricultural subsector. Next slide. Okay, look at all these plants. Just continue. Onions, carrots, continue. Stop, go back to the last one. Look at the woman arranging. If you see them arranging fruits and vegetables, honestly, you might think they are architects. When you see them arrange groundnuts on a tray, when you see them onions in a basket, wallahi, you would think that they are first-class architectural students. But then I have something to say here. Next slide. Look at that. No, go back to that. That first one is in Edo State. Has the highest plantain. The plantain is there. There is no road to that village. So the plantains are there, but they cannot be taken out of that village from the area of production to area of consumption. And down there is ShopRite. That's how they arrange the things. Move up to the last slide, please. The previous slide. No, this one, the previous one. Look at this woman. Most of you, when you go to buy from this woman, you begin to bargain. How much are your mangoes? 5,000, 2,000. Madam, give it for 1,000. Madam, give it to 500. But when you go to ShopRite, you don't do any bargaining. You carry all the fruits and vegetables that are produced in Nigeria, you go into ShopRite, washed and packaged well. So packaging and post-harvest handling is a major problem of agriculture. If we could have a good packaging of our products, definitely we can compete with any other nation. And next slide, please. Next slide, keep going. We have all this in the country: mango, citrus, apple can grow in Nigeria, banana, dates, keep going, watermelon, citrus, onions, tomatoes, keep going, okra, cucumber, pumpkin, keep going, carrots, cabbage. Okay, can you go back to cabbage? Cabbage. There is something special about cabbage. If you are moody and you are not happy, you just need a leaf of cabbage, wash it, and just chew it. It has a chemical that will excite you and change your mood within 5 minutes. Free consultancy. If your wife annoys you, eat cabbage. If your boss annoys you, eat cabbage. If you don't have money, eat cabbage. Next slide, please. Keep going, keep going. I just have 1 minute to go. Continue going. Okay, way forward. This is the way forward for us to get food security. We should have the farmers database. Who are the real farmers in Nigeria? We do not know. We need a tentative farmers database with the geo-coordinates of their farmland so that we can capture them and give them the inputs. But as of now, we don't have a comprehensive database. Same with the soil map. You know, agriculture needs fertilizer. When you apply acidic fertilizer on an acidic soil, the soil is gone completely. Vis-a-vis for alkaline fertilizer on alkaline soil. So we are always looking for a balance. Acidic fertilizer on alkaline soil, alkaline fertilizer on acidic soil. But if you don't have the soil map, how will you know whether your soil is alkaline or acidic? That's also a major problem. Next, comparative advantages. The 36 states should look at their comparative advantages in agriculture. What is the comparative advantage of Ebonyi? It's rice. Ebonyi, keep producing rice. What is the comparative advantage of Akwa Ibom? Cassava and oil palm. Akwa Ibom, continue producing that. What's the comparative advantage of Kaduna State? Cowpea, maize, sorghum, etc. Continue producing it. Let every local government area, 774, know their comparative advantage in agriculture and let them focus on that particular crop alone, and you will see significant changes in what we are saying. Next slide. Okay, continue. Efficient water management, germplasm development, research and development, very important. Then, of course, access to credit, which is, I said, forward, quickly go forward. Commodity marketing board, Dr. Baba Hakim Baba Ahmad. You remember the commodity marketing boards of the old days? And you know how they made the farmers to be very great people? You remember that time of your youth when the cotton farmer is one of the most respected people and everybody wants to give him a wife? You remember those days? If you bring back the commodity boards, the farmers are going to have a feeling of being farmers and they will get value for what they are producing. So I recommend strongly that the commodity marketing boards of previous years should please be brought back. Then improve effective and efficient extension services. I talked about it. Improve gender consideration. The women do most of the work in agriculture, even in the north, with all the Sharia, with all the hijab. Our women go to the farms. Really. Every part in this country, women go to the farm. In the north, all planting are done by women and picking of beans, etc., all done by women. So let's empower our women to be grateful that they are women and they are into agriculture. Please, if your wife wants to venture into agriculture, please give her all the necessary assistance. If your sister wants to be a farmer, give her all the necessary assistance. Because farming is not like before now. Farming is an investment venture, like banking, oil, telecommunications, and NTA marketing, or FRCN, of lifting the nation and uniting the people. Next slide, I'm about rounding up. I will round up. Go, continue going. Okay, stop and stop at the next one. Traditional rulers. Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmad. You have relations with the palace. And I happen to be a prince of the Elkanemi dynasty. Our tradition, the emir of Zazzau sitting just near you, knows every stranger that comes into Zaria every day. He has an intricate mechanism of knowing Suwa Nene Yo Suka Shugo. And in his palace, there is a title holder that is called Kartakwana. That man does not start his work until 10 p.m. So any visitor to the emir, even if the emir is within, you cannot reach the emir, that man will give you accommodation and food till the next day, and he will bring you to the emir. So the traditional rulers are the nucleus of our societies. We have to give them some portion in the constitution so that at least they can be able to perform their duties. Even as they are sitting now, most little crises, maternal crisis, husband and wife, small thefts, are all handled in the Zaria's emir's palace. No police, but they know how to handle it. His father did it, his grandfather also did it. So the traditional rulers should be given a special status in the constitution so that they can do their work very well. I want to conclude. Okay, wait here. Let's just press the present government. From the 29th of May 2023, His Excellency President Tinubu announced the proclamation of national emergency on food security. This is the first time it's happening in this country. He needs an applause. Then secondly, the president also removed rural development from agriculture and said Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. That also is a very depth innovation happening for the very first time. And of course, not enough. He now carved out the Ministry of Livestock so that the Fulanis can go their way. We Kanuris can also go our way. And Abba Gambo will say in the middle, we want to thank the president for that also. Finally, in conclusion, for my conclusion, continue all this is I wish to conclude by quoting the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abba Kyari. And in his inaugural speech, he now said the mandate of the ministry, food security, economic growth and job creation, poverty eradication, inclusivity, youth and women. That's what I've been saying. Next slide. Thank you so very much for your attention.